Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Dr. Kristalina Georgieva, is in Sri Lanka on her first official visit to the country at a critical juncture of the Sri Lankan economy's path to recovery after severe blows on the economy, be it financial, external, terrorism-related or even climate-related after the most recent shock from Cyclone Ditwa. Of course, as Sri Lanka continues the IMF-supported reform program, global uncertainty posing risks on not just Sri Lanka but other smaller economies, we speak with Dr. Georgieva about progress made, risks ahead and what this moment means for the country's future. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Georgieva. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you.
It is fantastic to be here, and thank you for having me on your show.
Dr. Georgieva, as I mentioned, your first visit to Sri Lanka. I want to know what this represents to you and what it means symbolically and both practically for us in Sri Lanka in terms of the journey ahead in our recovery progress. And how would you say, what would you highlight as the most important and significant gains we have made since the program began with the IMF?
I am really very pleased to come because the country has made such a tremendous progress since the days when the economy was close to collapse, and congratulate the government and the people of Sri Lanka for the progress you have made. But I also am glad that I can be here soon after the cyclone that devastated parts of the country as an expression of solidarity and a chance for me to witness the strength of the Sri Lankan people, the resilience you demonstrate, and the unity you so clearly achieve in this moment of tremendous challenge for the country.
I understand that you visited the Ditwa affected areas and residents, and it means something personal to you as well, what Sri Lanka has gone through.
I had a chance to meet with the community affected by Ditwa and see that people remain strong, and yet the horror of what has happened is upon them. I used to be a humanitarian commissioner. I visited many places devastated by natural disasters and conflicts, and what I can say is that you have wonderful people. They come together at a moment of tremendous pain, and they think of the future. I also am very impressed by how the government stepped forward quickly, decisively. We at the IMF were able to provide emergency financing. Over $200 million came very timely. So these communities are not to bear alone the pain of what has happened to them. And I'll tell you, looking at the faces of the children, that fills me with hope for the country, because I can see in them the character of Sri Lanka, warm and generous with your time, with your welcome, even when the community has gone through so much.
I think Sri Lanka has had severe blows to the economy in the last 10 years after the end of the war, whether it has been financial, external, political or even climate-related shocks, as you mentioned most recent. You've met the President of Sri Lanka just this morning, and during this very brief visit you've made time to meet the cyclone-affected residents. What is your message, or what has been your message as you meet political leaders and authorities as Sri Lanka remains resilient through these shocks?
Indeed, Sri Lanka has had quite the challenges over the last decade. It has gone through a civil war. There was a terrorist attack. The pandemic hit you. The 2004 tsunami hit the country. And then there was social unrest because of that sense that the government was falling short in meeting the aspirations of people. Now we have a tremendous opportunity for the country. I think for the first time there is a government that is trusted by the people and is doing their part to gain that trust. I want to say from our experience, one, in a short time, Sri Lanka regained macroeconomic and financial stability. Inflation was 70%, now it is down to 2%. Growth was negative, now we have about 5% growth. And very important, the view of the government is that there has to be trust in civil service, and that means corruption has to be eliminated. Sri Lanka is the first country in Asia in which the government asks us to do a governance assessment so we can help in this fight to eliminate corruption. I also saw in the president and in the members of the government genuine interest in the well-being of people. And I know that success comes when a country is united. This government is working so hard to achieve that.
That also takes us back to when Sri Lanka decided to agree to an IMF-supported program. Sri Lanka's decision was controversial at the time, saw public resistance and some controversial political resistance as well. But from where you are speaking today, in moments of acute crisis, countries like ours, frontier markets like Sri Lanka, face limited choices. So from your experience, how do you view that decision from the significant recovery Sri Lanka has made as you described today?
Well, the IMF has changed over the decades. We are not your grandmother's IMF anymore. We pay a lot of attention to people in our programs. We actually request governments to set a floor for social spending so education, healthcare, social protection don't suffer when a country goes through a program. We currently have 50 programs, 50. Why so many? Because we live in a world that is changing very rapidly. It is a more shock-prone world, and more countries require the financial support from the IMF. Think of it as your right. Your right in a moment of difficulty, not to be left on your own, to have a helping hand and to have the expertise of IMF staff to help the country turn its course for the better. We have 191 members. We learn from each and every one of them. And we pass this experience. We are like a transmission line of best practice from one country to another. I am a European, and I'll tell you this. Today in Europe, the best performing countries, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, they all had IMF programs recently. So to the people of Sri Lanka, we are your friend. We come in your service. And yes, we demand attention to problems that must be solved. Number one, fiscal soundness. A country should not spend more than it earns, the same way a family shouldn't spend more than it earns. Second, independent central bank that can make decisions about price stability so people are not hit by inflation in a way that taxes especially the poor. And three, that there is thinking about growth strategy. How can we open up space for private sector to flourish so jobs are created for the young people of Sri Lanka?
You've continued to describe that uncertainty is the new normal, and we talk about risks from the global economy and financial tightening and capital flows. So for small countries like Sri Lanka, what would be the role of the IMF, and how can smaller nations look to the IMF for support as we navigate these tough yet uncertain times?
Well, we have geopolitical factors playing a bigger role today than they did some time ago. Trade policy is changing. Technology is transforming the way we live, the way we work. And then we have on top of it climate change. All of this combined creates unusually high and persistent uncertainty. What we do at the IMF is we collect information from all countries, and then we are able to paint a picture where is the world today and where it is headed. And at the time of uncertainty, we bring to each and every one of our members more confidence that we together can define direction to travel that is good for people in the country. Sri Lanka is fantastic. This is a beautiful country, and people here are so warm, so kind. We want you to have the very best of future and to bring all we know to your service.
The risks we've spoke about earlier, what buffers do you recommend governments to have in order to safeguard its economies and people and remain resilient?
At the time of more frequent shocks, what we recommend is, one, have good reserves, and actually we are working with Sri Lanka to increase the level of reserves. Two, have sound fiscal policy, so you have fiscal buffers when a shock hits, you can protect your people and your businesses. And three, have a growth strategy that is more reliant on the creativity and adaptability of the private sector. Because at the time of rapid change, governments have harder time to see through economic opportunities. Businesses are faster to adapt.
Smaller economies, we speak about them, but I stress to ask you about the impact on these smaller economies, especially as we see geopolitical tensions and climate shocks. So what risks again?
Yeah. Well, the small open economies are exposed to changes that others are taking, and this is why my message is get your house in order, keep your house in order. This depends on you. What others are doing, you may not be able to influence, but you can influence your own destiny. And we also strongly recommend that small economies align with like-minded. We promote more regional integration. In fact, here in South Asia, there is space for countries to trade more with each other, to build cooperation, economic cooperation that can help them in this world of more significant change. When we look around, we see in many regions this reflection that maybe global cooperation now is more difficult. Let's compensate by deepening our regional cooperation. We see it in the Gulf Cooperation Council, we see it in ASEAN, your neighbors here in Southeast Asia, and we certainly would love to see it more right here.
That takes us to debt. Debt has been a major issue for Sri Lanka's economy. The IMF came in to support Sri Lanka with the debt restructuring. But as we speak of debt, what policy advice do you have for not just Sri Lanka, but economies that fall into this situation?
Well, the best thing to not have to deal with that is not to build it in the first place. So we work very closely with our members to have sound debt management policies and offices to prevent that from building up. And then if that has already happened, act decisively and act early. Sri Lanka has taken steps to restructure its debt, and rightly so, almost completed. As you go forward, our advice is be watchful. Don't allow debt to build up again.
What message would you like to give to the people of Sri Lanka, MD, as Sri Lankans who are enduring difficult adjustments are wondering when relief will finally arrive and when the kind of economic prosperity that everyone aspires for will reach the grassroots levels of our society?
Cherish your unity. Together you are stronger. And make the best out of the tremendous qualities the country has. A hospitable country, great for tourism, and tourism is an important sector for Europe. A country where there is a lot of entrepreneurship, so that can bring new businesses, new ideas in place, and a country where people faced with difficulties can rely on each other. You also have a trusted government in place. Work together for a better future.
I believe you'll have some time to visit Sri Lanka, maybe next time when you come, but there's so much to see in Sri Lanka.
Oh, there is so much to see, I know. I have my plan for a private visit. I will bring my grandchildren so they can enjoy the beauty of Sri Lanka and the hospitality of the Sri Lankan people.
Thank you very much, MD. We look forward to welcoming you back in Sri Lanka. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you.
We were in conversation with the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Dr. Kristalina Georgieva, visiting Sri Lanka for the first time at a crucial juncture in Sri Lanka's economic recovery as we decide if these reforms will translate into long-lasting growth and prosperity.